What would happen if Kratos met Geralt of Rivia? Kratos and Geralt of Rivia had both been wandering for what felt like an eternity, each on their own separate journey. Kratos, the mighty Spartan warrior, had been seeking redemption for the sins of his past. Geralt, the legendary witcher, had been searching for a sense of purpose in a world filled with danger and magic. One day, their paths crossed in the midst of a dense forest. Kratos was making his way through the trees, his powerful strides leaving deep footprints in the soft earth. Geralt was following the trail of a particularly elusive creature. His senses heightened, and his silver sword at the ready, his yellow eyes ever watchful. As they approached a crossroad, both beings tensed. They recognized it in the air, the smell of a worthy opponent. Both picked up the pace ever so slightly. Once they reached the clearing of the crossroad, they were met with each other's gaze. Kratos' fist closed, his thoughts already in the 10th movement ahead. Geralt's eyes went from the axe protruding from the man's back to the point of the curved blades, which had an eerie aura to them. His left hand moved almost by instinct to reach the blizzard potion around his neck. Only a millisecond had passed. Both men's eyes finally met, and something in each other's gaze made them pause. They sensed the weight of the world in each other's eyes, the pain of loss, and the burden of responsibility. Both could relate to that. In that very moment, they knew that they were not enemies. They were just two warriors searching for their place in a world that did not always make sense. Without a word, they lowered their hands and nodded to each other in mutual respect. They both reached the intersection where an unkept fire had turned to ashes. Kratos started chopping a fallen tree nearby. Geralt started to unpack a meal. After a few minutes, they had everything set up and not a single word had been spoken. These men knew how to travel alone and were efficient. Sitting near the roaring fire which separated them, both men relaxed. Well, at least as much as they knew how. They didn't excel at it for sure. The sound of nature took over, and the warmth of a tranquil campfire slowly but surely got to them. And so their journey continued. But be by pure chance or fate, both men followed the same path for a long time. Should we address some of the quests they undertook? After all, they weren't unfamiliar with that sort of livelihood. We might even say they were programmed to live this way. Quests after quests, story after story. Kratos and Geralt's quest took them through treacherous mountains and scorching deserts, across rivers and through dark forests. They encountered all manner of beasts and monsters, but they stood together and fought as one, their combined strength and skill making them a formidable team. As they traveled, they shared stories of their pasts and the challenges that they had faced. Kratos told Geralt of his time as a god-slaying Spartan warrior and the terrible things he had done in the name of pride and revenge. Geralt spoke of his life as a witcher, the sacrifices he had made, and the difficult choices he had to make in order to survive. Despite their differences, they found that they had a deep understanding of each other. They were both warriors who had known great loss and struggled to find their place in a world that often seemed cruel and uncaring. As they journeyed on, they began to see their quest as something greater than themselves. They were no longer just two men searching for redemption or purpose. They were fighting for something bigger, something that would benefit all of humanity. And so they pushed on, determined to see their quest through to the end, no matter the cost. They knew that they could rely on each other, and that together they were stronger than they could ever be apart. On one of their quests, they were hired by a group of villagers to rid their town of a pack of ravenous wolves that had been terrorizing the area. Working together, Kratos and Geralt were able to track down the wolves and defeat them, earning the gratitude of the townspeople and strengthening their bond. Not long after that, they were hired to retrieve a magical artifact from a group of bandits who had stolen it from a powerful sorceress. The quest took them deep into the heart of the enemy territory, and they were forced to fight their way through waves of bandits to get to the artifact. Despite the odds, they were able to recover the item and return it to the sorceress, cementing their partnership. They were also approached by a group of dwarves who needed help reclaiming their ancestral mines from a group of trolls who had taken over. Kratos and Geralt accepted the challenge and ventured into the mines, battling their way through hordes of trolls and eventually defeating the troll leader, Asgralos. The dwarves were overjoyed and offered the two warriors a share of the riches they had recovered. That was a first. They were hired by a wealthy merchant to protect his caravan as it traveled through a dangerous stretch of land. Along the way, they were ambushed by a group of bandits, and a fierce battle ensued. Kratos and Geralt fought side by side to defeat the bandits and protect the caravan. They were no match. Each of them was more than enough to take care of those mobs. They had seen wars, much worse. But as it turned out, they were enjoying themselves. The hunt, traveling, companionship, and a companionship they didn't need to look after. That was no small detail. After that, they were approached by a group of rebels who needed help overthrowing a corrupt ruler. Kratos and Geralt knew that this was a cause they could believe in, and they joined forces with the rebels to launch a daring attack on the ruler's castle. In the end, they were successful in overthrowing the corrupt ruler and installing a just leader in their place. The experience brought them even closer together, as they had fought for something they both believed in. These stories have been written by an AI and curated by yours truly. What are your thoughts on this matter? Would you like to hear more stories about Kratos and Geralt? Or perhaps some new heroes or villains appear at the doorstep? You need just ask, and it shall pass. But first, you need to subscribe. That is no request, but a command.